Mysteries and Mysteries Uncovered. I'm Ashley.
And I'm Jessica. And
Drum roll.
we have Cody.
A special guest, my husband. So Cody was a Navy nuke, so he was in a submarine for a really long time, and he's going to come on and answer a bunch of your guys' questions about submarine life. So
Yay.
Come on in, Cody.
Okay. Hey, everybody.
Hi, Cody.
All right, so we asked a bunch of you guys, our listeners, and other podcast listeners, a bunch of questions that they'd want to ask a submariner. So the first one that I thought was really funny said that her ex told her a story about duct taping people to bulkheads. So my question would be, did his sub have similar stories that he's allowed to share?
Yeah. I mean, we did stuff like that. You know, they kind of cracked down on like the hazing sort of portion of it all. You know, Big Navy did, but yeah, we had stuff like that. Like, we did duct tape some people. We used to do some stuff where I would take like a megger, which it basically produces a voltage, and you can you use it to test systems. And I hooked it around, and I put it on a chain that we had to move.
No.
And as people would grab the chain, I would zap them real quick.
That's awesome.
So we had, it's a fun time. They kind of, safety and all that, they kind of cracked down on that, but I'm sure it's still going on. It's just kind of a culture thing. Everyone kind of did it. Everyone kind of, as long as no one was getting hurt, wasn't really the big deal.
Yeah, it's kind of like hazing.
Yeah. Like there were some stuff back in the day that they kind of saw as really negative. When we get pinned, they have like little sharp tacks. It's called tacking on. So they kind of got rid of that kind of stuff. That's not really fun. A couple other things that were kind of the norm, but overall we still kind of had a good time. We just didn't try and hurt each other.
That's good, probably for the best.
All right, so another question was, how is the claustrophobia? Does anybody ever freak out? And can pilots or captains see sea animals?
What? Can I say that?
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I mean, so claustrophobia. So I guess it'd probably be easier to cover something else before we do that question. To get into the submarine force, you have to volunteer. And they don't just give it to you. You have to go through an evaluation. It's not anything difficult. It's just like a mental health questionnaire kind of thing. And then you sit down with someone and they clear you. I don't know of anyone who's ever not gotten through that. I'm sure there are plenty. So listeners, talk to your Navy friends and I'm sure they'll love to correct me. So for a lot of the guys that were there, claustrophobia, big, like if you say you have claustrophobia, they're not going to put you on a submarine. So it doesn't ever really get to anyone too much. It is tight spaces. And we did have some big guys, one of the first classes in my division. So my I was an electrician. So my group of electricians, one of my leaders, he was like 6'4", 240 pounds. He's a big guy.
Jeez.
Me, I'm 5'6", so I was 150, 160 pounds back then. And so for me, it wasn't a big deal at all. Does anyone ever freak out? Not for that kind of reason. For claustrophobia. And then can pilots, captains see sea animals? Yeah, I mean, when we're on the surface, definitely. We can see, we have sonar, so we know what's out there. We can hear it. Passive sonar, kind of see like the big stuff. So, whales or whatnot. But when you're on the surface doing what's called transiting, so anytime a submarine's on the surface, it's called transiting.
Okay.
So you can see like in Hawaii, down there, you have the dolphins doing their thing a lot, going through the Straits of Juan de Fuca, which is, I think I said that right. It's the Straits in Washington.
Okay.
For that submarine base to get out, we would have killer whales or whatnot around us. Not often, not anything that, and we're really not there to sightsee. It's mostly the people up in the sail.
Yeah.
That wasn't my job, but yeah, there's definitely captains can see sea animals.
Jessica, did you have a question, ma'am?
I did. I have two questions.
Okay.
Okay. So, first of all, what is the layout of a submarine like? How big is it? How many
Yeah.
people are on it? And second, I'm gonna ask it now because I will forget. Um, I already did forget. So just
Okay.
continue with
That's okay. Yeah.
the layout, the size, all that kind of stuff. Because I'm interested because they don't look that big.
They're not.
In
They're
movies,
not.
so
So there's a couple different classes of submarine. So
okay.
they're mainly grouped up into fast attacks, ballistic missile submarines. So we call those boomers, and then guided missile submarines, which are GNs. So fast attacks, BNs or boomers, and GNs. BNs and GNs are pretty much the same size-wise. They're also making newer classes, but I don't know too much about those. And really, I don't have too much, in the realm of feet or whatnot. It was a long time ago, and like over 10 years since I had to know that kind of stuff. But
yeah,
I would say that the one that I was on, a boomer, is big. It's the biggest. The BNs and GNs are the biggest, and they're about a football field and change.
okay.
And then fast attacks are a little smaller. They don't have all the missile hatches for ballistic missile or guided missile systems. So those are just just under maybe a football field. It's all, you can look it all up. It's out there. I can't remember.
No, I didn't mean like specifics, but
Yeah.
like how many people would be in it at a time?
Yeah. Okay. So, and there's usually about 150 to 160. In an ideal world, that's about how many people are there.
Holy shit!
Yeah.
More people.
Small space.
It is.
Yeah.
No, it's fine. Yeah, it's a lot of people. But so what they have to do is on fast attacks, they don't have enough racks for every person.
What's a rack?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, a rack is your bedpan. So there's a in the boomers, the ones that I was on, we had our own room, our own bunk room, and it was 3 stacks of 3 in a U shape. So you would walk in the middle, and that was our division's space.
Was it just like a bucket though? Like
no, it's like a bedpan. It's like a 7-foot by 3-foot bedpan with.
But you would have to carry it with you out of the sub. It doesn't just deposit into the ocean?
No, nothing like that. No, that's just where you sleep.
Oh, okay.
So a bedpan to most people is where you go to the bathroom, like a hospital.
Yeah.
So he's talking like a bunk bed.
Oh yeah, whatever.
Oh, okay. I thought it was
literally a pan for a bed. Maybe I don't know. Maybe there's some other word. I don't know.
He's talking bunk bed, like
okay.
And then inside, so it's like maybe 7-8 inches, and it folds up, and that's where we put all of our stuff.
Yeah.
And then we have like other hidey holes. I don't know, like put a lot of stuff down there. Like we would take they're called sea bags. Those things that you see like in the movies. They're all wearing those green backpacks. Those are called sea bags. So we would just stuff it full of tobacco or energy drinks or socks. Socks were a pretty hot commodity. Whatever anyone kind of wanted, candy, and go in there every so often because it was under someone's bedpan. So you'd have to get them out of bed, rack it up, remove one of the sheets. Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. So yeah, about 150 people, broken up into kind of different jobs. So there's kind of the engineering, which is where I was, as an electrician, and then there's the forward rates, and the electricians and we call them A gang. They're the non-nuclear mechanics on subs. We kind of go everywhere, but
love these names.
Yeah, we kind of go everywhere, and there's other rates too that we all interact with each other. We all know each other. We're all there's no going away from each other. So, so yeah, and then you have the forward guys, and they're doing sonar. There's your weapons guys. They're your fire control technicians, your yeomen. All like that's where the officers sleep is up front. Not like they do have their own separate bunk rooms, but on some it's like distributed. Like sometimes there's not enough officer racks, so they have to come bunk with us.
Yeah.
Losers.
Yeah, and I was talking about fast attacks. They don't have enough racks for everyone, so what they do is, if I remember this right, it's 3 people to 2 racks. So,
oh my gosh.
So you would wake up the person that is in your rack to go.
Oh.
So they would
share the bed.
Yeah, so they just share the bed, and it's usually for like the newer guys. The more senior guys, they get their own racks, but it's called hot racking because the rack is just nice and toasty warm because someone was sleeping in it.
Nice.
Yeah, so you change out your sheets. Don't be gross. But I never had to do that. I never had to.
Oh, good, because you were the senior, so you got your own.
No, just because on boomers there's more space. So we slept in between the missile tubes.
Oh, that's dangerous.
Yeah. No, it's not. You're not like you can't touch the missiles or anything. They're there's only certain people on board who can, and then they're giant steel or whatever tubes. I don't know what metal.
Yeah. So how long would you guys be down at a time?
Well, so the longest I was ever gone was somewhere in the high 90 days.
Like never coming up to the surface?
We usually boomers, they go on what's called patrols. They call them deployments. So like a fast attack would go out for like 6 months or 8 months or 10 months or however long. That's their deployment. For us, it's more segmented. So we had 2 crews. So we would go out, do our patrol. We would come back, do a repair period. A whole other crew would take over the submarine, and they would go back out with the same boat. So for us, a boomer typically has a patrol cycle of about 3 to 4 months. So you're out there just, wherever your assigned circle is, whatever you're told to do, you're out there doing it. And, usually during those, we do inspections. We get supply unloads. If we, ordered parts, critical parts, we would come up with that kind of stuff. Usually we would, come in closer somewhere to land, depending on the situation. But we don't make port. Banking port is, going somewhere and parking somewhere for a couple days.
Yeah.
Because boomers have ballistic missile nuclear weapons. So the rules, they can't go to certain ports. And we wouldn't want them to for security reasons as well. They start to do it. That's not. There are exceptions to the rule, but generally speaking, boomers don't pull in anywhere. So you just go out for 90 days, 120 days. Sorry,
they didn't know how to pull out either.
But how long have you been underwater? Like, what's the longest you've been underwater?
So the longest I've been underwater, with only coming up for like, we call it periscope depth. It's where we do our communications, on and off. I think it was that was in the high 40s. I want to say 40s or 50s, 40 or 50 days.
So crazy.
Never, just. Yeah, you definitely get stir crazy.
I was gonna say, how do you not go stir crazy?
You're too busy.
Yeah.
They just work you. I mean, it's the military. There's no time limit. So when I first showed up, the rotation was every 6 hours. So you would stand 6 hours of what's called watch, and that's where you're manning some watch station. You're monitoring for the things to happen. You're making sure that all your parameters are correct. You're taking logs. If you have to do some sort of operation and it's on your watch, you're doing that.
Yeah.
So you do that. You do that for 6 hours, and then you go into what's called off-going, and that's just your off-going watch. And in that time, you get to do maintenance, you get to do training, you get to do, I mean, honestly, that does cover a lot of it, but it doesn't sound like a lot, but maintenance, is a lot. There's a lot, a lot of maintenance, and it's not even, some divisions didn't have a lot of maintenance, and they would just play cards or watch movies, having a great time. For some people, going underway was pretty sweet, but being an electrician, it was not sweet. It was not fun because everything, if it had a wire going to it, it was our problem.
Yeah.
And so there's always problems, and there's always people pissed off that their water heater isn't working, and I need to get my light bulb changed, and this little switch isn't working. Well, I can't even touch that panel, blah blah blah. So yeah, and then you go into 6 hours of sleep, and then do it over again. So you just do that for 3-4 months. You don't use, if you have maintenance that goes into your sleep time, too bad, you're doing the maintenance. If they decide to run drills when it's your turn to sleep, too bad, you're running drills. Yeah, they didn't care. They would just wake you up, and it was just part of that life. Later on, they did switch to 8s. So you would have like a standard day. Yeah, so it'd be 8 hours of watch, 8 hours of off going, 8 hours of sleep. I really liked that shift personally. And
it sounds a lot more balanced, like you said.
Yeah, and every week you would go, okay, now I'm going to be the 0 to 8 shift. Okay, then the next week you're the 8 to 12, or excuse me, the 8 to 4. And then so that was a nice rotation.
This one made me laugh. It said, "Are there fun party times on the sub, or is it all business? Is there a bar like in Star Trek on the Enterprise?"
Yeah, so we do have a party. There's a couple different traditional parties that I did not get to participate in. Not for any bad reason, just they throw parties if the boat goes by the equator. That's well, because it's called I think that one's shellback. So you get a whole certificate for crossing the equator. There's a whole ceremony for going. I think it's like the prime meridian. I think that is. I can't remember what that one is. I never got it. And then golden shellback, Order of the Crystal, or the Golden Dragon, or something like that. That one's out in Japan area. So there's a lot of traditional parties, and then there's always halfway night. Halfway night's always a blast.
Is that halfway done?
Yeah, well, it's we never went on a patrol that didn't get extended. So it's, but it was a party. They would the cooks would come out and really put on a good smorgasbord for everything. No maintenance, no drills. Let's just hang out.
Did you have a bar though?
Did we have a bar? No bar. You couldn't take alcohol underway. You could buy it, like if you were pull in somewhere, like the guys who go to like Singapore or Japan or Guam, that you could buy it, you could bring it on. You're just not supposed to drink it. It is what it is. And that's a fun night. The officers sell their seats, so like you can be captain for a day, you can be the XO for a day.
That's cute.
Like the captain would be like, yeah, if you buy my seat, you and your wife, I'll pay for a steak dinner downtown. You get a 4-day Liberty Chit, which is a huge deal.
What's a Liberty Chit?
Liberty is time off in the Navy. So 4 days off is the maximum that he can grant, and that's like a beacon of sunshine having 4 days off. So yeah, we have a halfway night. We usually do something else for when people get their fish. A little smaller, but so the submarine warfare device. I have it in my plaque back there. It's everyone on board submarines has to qualify the submarine warfare device, and what that is when you first show up, you have to learn about all the systems on the boat. So forward to aft, you have to learn about the missile systems. You have to learn about the torpedo systems. You have to learn about the poop systems. You have to learn about the cook systems. All the engineering, all the nuclear plant. Like they don't have to learn it to the extent that we did, but they have to know that hot rock makes steam. you know, um, you know, and then you have to do a series of exercises and then a board. It's called basically like an interview, but a lot more stressful. So you do like a series of things. You have to put on firefighting equipment blindfolded and make it from the forward of the boat to the back with no assistance. You have to.
Is it not just a straight line? It's a long
No,
cylinder.
no. So it's to simulate like if there's smoke, you need to be able to navigate the entire boat blind.
Okay.
So that's like the idea. So we have these things. They're masks, and you strap them on, and it's just a hose, and you can't breathe in it until you hook that hose in to an air connection. And the air connections have scratchy pads under them. So the way you do it is you learn all the twists and turns. There's not many, but the stairs are very steep, and you will get really, really hurt. I've seen guys get hurt.
Oh yeah. 100% me.
Yeah. Yeah. So you kick it and you can feel the resistance. So that's an example, and you have to do a couple other things. And then you pass your board, and that's, a lot of rapid fire questions. How does this work? How does that work? Like, what's your job? You have to answer a whole bunch of submarine history. There's a lot of heritage when it comes to the submarine force. I think it's something like submarines counted for a third of the submerged tonnage in World War II. So the submarine force uniquely took it in the nose in World War II. So there's a lot of pride in what we do, and not everyone can do it, and that's okay. You just you try your board. If it doesn't work, you head on out.
What do you do if you have to head on out?
They find another job for you.
So we got a lot of questions about the bathroom. What's the bathroom like? Where does it go? What do you do with it?
Yeah.
What if you really have a load? Like what?
Yeah, it's pretty low tech. There's really nothing fancy about it. You walk in actually, unfortunately, my bunk room was wall to wall with one of the crew's heads. They're called heads.
The bathrooms.
Yeah, the bathrooms are called heads. So if there was like an overflow, it would smell terrible. So
it just gets stored.
Yeah. So there's sanitary tanks.
Big guys, they're gonna have like Doberman size loads.
Well, yeah.
Not fair.
Sometimes it would get gross because like they would pressurize the tank the wrong way.
Ugh.
Like they should be shooting it overboard, but instead they're shooting it up inboard.
Okay, so wait, does the poop go into the water?
Yeah. So the reason we have to store it is the whole point of a submarine is to be quiet. So we want to choose when we do these, like anything overboard, it makes a ton of noise.
Okay, that makes sense.
So about the shrimp.
Yeah, that's what I was getting to. So whenever we do discharges underway of the sand tanks, sometimes you can go up to the sonar techs, and they'll let you put on the headphones, and you'll hear the shrimp coming behind and eating it, and it's like yeah, that was pretty cool. It was pretty funny. So yeah, there's stuff like that. Sure. What else?
So some people were wondering, and by some people I mean Jessica, what is the point of a sub? Like, why do we have subs?
Okay.
Like, obviously you can't go into a lot of details because of the nature of your job, but they seem so archaic, right? Like, what is the point of them that a boat can do?
They're the tip of the spear. Submarines are how we get things done. They're really like one of the most important pieces of our entire military. Fast attack.
You never hear about them.
That's the point.
Yeah.
They're sneaky.
Yeah. So yeah, that means we're doing our job.
But
so
what do you
yeah, so
do?
that's what I'm getting to. So they have a bunch of different strategic missions based on the type of submarine. So fast attacks are, they're the ones that you usually see in the movies. There was one that came out with what's that? Gerard
Butler.
Yeah, it's called Hunter Killer. So that was supposed to be. I think that was supposed to be a fast attack. And so, like, their missions are to go out and sit on the bottom of some enemy river and patrol and track and report on enemy movement. Like, we can get incredibly close to vessels. We can go right up to them and they won't know we're there.
What if they have their own sub?
We are so much better. We are so much better.
Does
okay.
Canada have a bunch of subs? What's Canada's subs like?
I know that there is a submarine force, I think. Well, okay.
Do we?
That's how I know, I think. I believe you guys do have a submarine force. It's probably not big. But yeah, it's not unheard of to do war games with other nations.
Battleship.
Yeah, we did it once or twice. I can't remember the nation, but we did, some, hey, today's your day to try and find us. Like, oh, no, like, okay. And yeah, so we would try and and there was other times we would do it with our own submarines. And when it was with ourselves, like, there's a certain point where like, okay, make noise so that way these guys can find you and make sure that they know how to do that. So we would download porn and we would just put it up to the bulkhead. And so, and just banging on the walls with wrenches and going ape shit. And then like I said, there's the other days where it's like, okay, it's called condition ultra quiet, where you eat, you don't flush the toilet, you eat, you sleep, and you sit in a chair. Whatever your watch station is, you sit and you do not make noise. No one talks. Well, there's a little bit of talking because you obviously have to for some stuff, but no loose comms, face to face, kind of a whisper.
Because other ships can hear talking in a sub, right?
Yeah. It's there's so many noises. It's hard to. I never learned everything about it, but you could hear the tiniest things, and sound travels so much better through water than it does through air. So if there was ever a situation in the future where we're submarine to submarine, which is pretty rare, but it's more common for surface to sub. They're trying to find us. We have airplanes that are supposed to track other enemy submarines.
Oh.
So they can detect you, and the slightest sound could really kind of kill everyone. So that's what we kind of practice for. So that's the fast attack stuff. The ballistic missile submarine. So my submarine was part of. It's called the nuclear triad. So sea, land, and air. Different methodologies of sending ballistic missile nuclear submarine or ballistic missiles to other nations. So boomers. There's one on patrol in each ocean at all times. That's public knowledge. You can look that up. You can't figure out which one it is, but you can Google all that. And it's the missiles are actually capable of going well outside the atmosphere. And
from the sub.
Yeah, so
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, because they're called ballistic missiles because they just drop the missiles in space and they just fall on a trajectory.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, it is.
So it'll go from a sub into space.
Yeah, so we take these missiles out there. I can't get into too much into how all that process works, but it's not like in the movies. It's there are certain drills. We called it, what the hell was it called? Well, I probably can't say it. We did an exercise. Yeah, you would kind of know it was coming, and it's like, hey, you're gonna pretend that you're gonna get into a launching situation. It was all practice. It's because, if we ever fired, if the ballistic missiles ever fired, we probably weren't going home. It's incredibly loud, for one, and two, it means we had to launch a nuclear missile, which is, we always just kind of thought it would just be the end of the world. So if we ever were told to really launch, we were just like, okay, well, either we're going to die because they're going to hunt us down, hopefully not, and get us, or there's going to be nothing to come home to. And
That's so scary.
Yeah, well, it's, thank God it's never happened, and hopefully it never does, but it sounds so much cooler than what it really is. The military in general, like all branches, is usually long periods of boredom broken by short periods of just bad times. like you're just not getting sleep, you're doing drills, you're doing this, but a lot of it's kind of monotonous. GNs, they have a really cool, they're like the mix between fast attacks and boomers. They don't have ballistic missiles, but they have like guided missiles, and they're the ones doing like all the SEAL missions. They're the ones taking SEALs out, dropping them off the coast of XYZ. So GNs have a really cool mission there. There's also the Seawolf class, which is the Jimmy Carter, and that's like the spec ops boat. Like we couldn't even really learn about it too much. That class had its own unique systems. It did its own Zero Dark 30 missions, all that stuff that you kind of hear about in the movies. That was them doing really, really cool stuff. But, a lot of the time it is just cleaning toilets and cleaning equipment, and trying to get some sleep.
Yeah, so I know you were saying about the electrical stuff because that's what you were working on.
Mm-hmm.
What would happen if during one of those quiet moments, like some electrical shit happened?
Yeah, I mean, depending on how critical it is, we would just let it break.
Yeah.
If
would they not pick up on the electrical
they'd
noise?
probably hear something. We're not the only sounds out there.
Yeah.
And so, and a lot of it is almost all of it. A lot of our equipment is mounted on like rubber mounts to minimize vibrations.
Oh, okay.
And then the hull usually has a special coating too. And so that's like for like the tiny stuff, for like contactors in a cubicle, or relays, that stuff, it can be mapped. You can hear that, but it's very difficult. And we have a really good production and sound profile.
Did you ever hear any like wild animal noises?
Yeah, you can hear. Yeah, you can hear whales. You can hear dolphins. You can hear the shrimp, like I was talking about. I would listen to. Sometimes we would just be given a square, like a cube in the ocean. Like, this is where you're going to spend the next 20 days. Okay, yeah. And so you would hear the ships going above you, or not above, but near. It'd be a bad day if it was above us.
Right.
Yeah, you're under the water, aren't they always above you?
Well, like I mean, like directly above.
Oh, okay.
If they're directly above, the way the water dynamics works for like a lot of those big freighters is that they have this massive wake underneath them, and that can pull. You know how you see the dolphins and they're just like coasting along in front of them.
Yeah.
Those videos. Mm-hmm. That's because it's getting pulled up and it's pushing along that control surface, and that would bring us up. And there were like charts, and I don't remember all the numbers, but you could be affected by that really deep.
Yeah.
So you don't want to crash into them. So
would you move out of the way then?
Oh yeah. We would always be really far away. There were like contact limits and like how close could something be, and we were always really good about maintaining that. I don't really ever. That wasn't ever my job, so maybe they messed up, but I never heard about
it. So we had where to go? As a person who has never been in a submarine, I feel like my biggest fear is somehow taking on water and drowning in a sub at the bottom of the sea. Yeah. So is that likely? And what is the biggest danger to a sub?
Super unlikely. The only time water usually gets in is because we do it to ourselves. We mess up a procedure. Um, we, we have to surface, for some reason, water could potentially come up over the back and get into the hatchways and get in. But no, I mean, they, there are limits to how deep the submarines can go. Um, you've probably heard the term crush depth at some point in time in any of the movies. Crush depth.
And what just happened to the
submarine? Yeah, and you hear about it every couple years. You hear about it, about a submarine going down, and the last thing they hear typically is an explosion. So you get too deep, and it just crumples you like a tin can.
And it's quick, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's super quick. Sometimes people survive. It's rare. It does not happen too often. Maybe there's some submarine historian out there way smarter about it than I am, but there are not many successful rescues because it's so hard to get the resources. We had like systems like that we could do to, like, if we ever bottomed out, we got sunk or something like that. We had like a procedure to get out and like shoot us to the top, but basically it was just putting on a suit. You'd have to pop your ears because otherwise your eardrums would explode as you ascend, and then you pressurize and you just get shot out. You hope you don't break your back on the way out, and then you have to make it all the way to the surface. So depending on how deep you are, you might not even be able to do that because the pressure is just too high or too much on the top of that hatch. Yeah.
So that's kind of what happened with the sub that tried to go down at the Titanic, right? They got too deep and crushed.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of problems with that one. I mean, I'm not like an expert. I only read the same news everyone else did, but it didn't read that they had like done any of the test inspections. It kind of read like there was like shoddy materials. There's a very specific process that the entire hull of a submarine goes through. And they certify it. And there was a whole issue with the certification that came out a couple years ago, but I don't know the details about that. But
we're not talking about the Titanic thing. We're talking about that recent excursion, right?
Yeah, they were going down to see the Titanic.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what they were doing?
Yeah. It was like a tour thing, right?
Millionaires.
Yeah, they died. Probably because they developed a crack, and then you get once you start like bringing in, like once you provide a path for the water, it gets bad fast. And, that's the worst case scenario. So we had to go through a whole bunch of flooding training. We had buildings, on land where you could go to trainers, and they'd put you in a mock-up room, and they'd start flooding it, and you had to
horrifying.
And it's all controlled, but it's freaking cold. I remember they didn't heat it up. They technically had the ability to heat it up, but they never did. Because they were like, they just didn't care. They thought it was funny. Probably I would. I think it's pretty funny. And so it was my first time doing it, and I jumped in, and like I'd never had like a shock, and I froze up because it was so cold, and I almost got like submerged under the pipe, but I was able.
Well, it was also probably to get you guys used to what the water temperatures would be like.
Yeah, and depending on where you are in the world, can definitely vary. But it absolutely would not be good to experience that for the first time. Yeah, and so you kind of like use different tools to do different types of leaks, different sizes. So you kind of have to show that you can do all that. That's part of that that fish qualification that I was talking about earlier. You have to prove that you can do all that. You have to prove that you can don an SCBA, so like a firefighter outfit. You have to prove that you know where all the fire hoses on board are. Because there's no one. If a fire happens, we're the fire team. There's no one else. So you have to learn all that. And there's trainers for that. And I think the most dangerous thing to a submarine is, I kind of talked about, is sound. But there are submarine hunters. They're very good at their jobs. So it's usually.
Do they hunt in their own submarines?
What's that?
Do they hunt in their own submarines?
Yeah. All the nations that do, yeah, they have them out there. I was never really like, our mission did not necessitate us like having to go into crazy places of the world. We were given a cube of water, and that was our mission, was to stay in there in case we needed to launch. But other submarines, yeah, definitely would track other submarines. That's a big point of submarines. Make sure that you can strike first. If you ever have to do anything, make sure that you can get in and out of enemy territory at your leisure. So there's buoys, there's all sorts of different things, that nations can use to track. So yeah, sound is the number one threat to a submarine, and the operators themselves. Where a lot of the errors are operator errors. So
we also had a lot of questions about smells, like if farting was a faux pas or what you did when people farted.
No, I mean, there's nothing to do. You
just giggle.
Yeah, I mean, you have to smell it. It's after a week, it's all just recycled farts.
Well, it probably just permeated in the air that you guys got used to it.
Well,
that was the other question about BO too. No hygiene.
No, well, yeah, people have there's a loose definition of hygiene on board. For some people, it's just downright nasty. But submarines, in the military, you're supposed to shave your beard, keep it nice and trim. But on board submarines, we grow them out underway. As long as there wasn't an inspection, as long as it was just the crew on board, you could grow them out. You could grow your hair out. We had a ship barber. It was just like one of his volunteer jobs he would do on the side. So if we ever had an inspection, he would cut everyone's hair.
Do you guys have showers?
Yeah. The showers are in the same like basic room as the toilets, and so we share them all. It's a shared shower. Water is a resource underway. You can only make so much water. So you take, I'm pretty sure it's like a Navy standard probably just for water conservation. So you take short showers. So you get in to this little tiny, like 3 foot by 3 foot stall. You turn the water on, you get wet, you turn the water off, you put your soap on, you get nice and sudsy, and then you rinse yourself off, and then you turn the water off. So you only just spray yourself. That's the point. A lot of people still took long showers, but you weren't supposed to. It was like you were like trained to do it a certain way. But I was guilty of it. I did it like once a week. Be like, no, Sundays are my day. I know how much water we have. I just looked at the gauge. Like, I'm good.
We also had a lot of questions about family and how you could contact them if you could hear from them often. And someone said that they heard that you couldn't get bad news underway. Is that a thing?
It's not that you can't. It's that in my experience, seeing that typically. Actually, I'll answer the first question. Get that out of the way. So, no, you don't really have too much contact on board submarines. You don't have internet. You have an email, and they call it sailor mail. And I imagine that your only method for communicating to the world was through Notepad on like your computer, and that's how good sailor mail was. It's so awful. So like you could only put in words. Pictures would sometimes get through. If you had like a life event, like a positive one, I knew a lot of guys who had kids underway. So they, unfortunately they missed out on that, but we'd go up and, we'd make sure that we got the messages that day. That way, in case we got notified, like that person would know soonest.
So you have to go up to get messages.
Yeah. You have to come to like a certain depth because you have to get your periscope and all the antennas up there, but you don't want to surface. Sometimes you come up to another depth called snorkel depth. That's to swap out air. That's always so wonderful. But sailor mail is very, very crude, very basic. The command will, if you get like a Red Cross alert, like someone dies, the captain gets that first. And He works with the CMC, who is the head enlisted person on board, and his XO, the executive officer, and they're called the Triad, and they make a decision on whether or not to tell you. And I have seen them not tell people that family members have passed. I have seen that.
That really sucks.
Yeah, it's a tough thing to live with, but their justification really comes down to they can't have you distracted. They can't. What are you going to do? You can't go anywhere. Like there's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do, but you still need to do your job. So that's kind of like where their head's at. That's why they keep some stuff back. It doesn't happen all the time. Like, oh yeah, my second aunt died. That sucks. Okay, but I do know people who have lost like immediate family members, and yeah, they just don't get told.
So that kind of comes
so hard.
Yeah. And that kind of brings to another question. People ask, is there like a sub jail? Like what happens if someone does something illegal? And what happens if someone has like a medical emergency?
Oh, or if somebody dies.
On board?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, security is a thing. We all get taught how to shoot. We all get taught they call it rappel borders. That's one of them. I'll just talk about that. Like you have to go out to the gun locker. You have to get a vest. You have to get the helmet. You have to get the gun. You have to go to your assigned post, and you're the security force. So we do have the capability to hold people if that is necessary. We're not the ones in the movies going to the cool places. So I never got to see anything cool like that. But definitely. I'm very confident that there are missions going on to get people out of places, and sometimes to take people out of places. And there are places where they go. Usually, it's just like a cruise space, So I think ours, like if we ever had a prisoner or someone like underway who broke the law, they would be under armed guard. And I think it was like the officers' like break room or something like that. I don't know. They just didn't get it anymore, and this dude's in there in handcuffs or something. If there's like a medical emergency, we all do get first aid training. We do have a doc. He's not like a PhD. He's just a corpsman. Not just a corpsman. No offense to that. The doc is awesome. They're always known as doc. Always, no matter what their rank is. No matter they're always an enlisted. Maybe like on the subs. Maybe there's an officer somewhere. Someone can prove me wrong, I'm sure. But they're always enlisted, corpsmen. They're always doc, and they always hook you up. Yeah, it's great. It's great going to doc. He gives you the 800 milligram ibuprofen, no problem. Like, you got some problems? Here you go. Like one time, I had some digestive problems. Here you go, take these. You'll be fine in 2 days. Like sweet, and I was. And he's as long as he's not like giving out he's not like a drug dealer. I make it sound like a lot like he's like Walter White in there or something like that.
Narcotic for you.
Yeah, but he is given medical training. If we have like a serious enough medical emergency, we would offboard that person. My roommate was on board a boat where a guy got crushed by a hydraulic ram, and they kept him alive for 3 days, I think it was, and the poor guy died on the evac.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's horrifying.
Yeah, it was a horrible accident. The whole fleet learned from it. They started putting cages around that section. There's a lot of people that I know that have been hurt, or have not made it through certain things. But it's never like we're not like in the movies getting shot at, 007 style. It's something goes wrong, and it's a very risky environment, and just kind of stuff happens sometimes.
How quickly can a sub move?
Quicker than you would think.
Like not a snail's pace.
No, no.
Okay.
They have some giddy up. They're not like, cruising, doing 60 miles an hour or anything like that. They're massive, massive machines. And it's not, they don't even measure it in MPH, it's all in knots.
But like if you had to maneuver something really quickly.
Yeah, so they can cover pretty good distances pretty quickly, relatively quickly. When you're talking about the size of an ocean, like they can't go as fast as a car. So imagine, you were told to cross all of America and your top speed was 50 miles an hour. That's going to take you a lot longer than if you were able to go 100. Well, imagine that, but across the Pacific or Atlantic Ocean. So it takes a couple weeks to get around, and longer for some others, shorter for some. Yeah, we can't really talk about the speeds, but they can move pretty quick. The big ones take longer to speed up. I stood a watch where I was the person who supplied steam to the engines. That was so much freaking fun. That was the most fun because you felt like you're like a race car driver. I got to do like a really cool thing, a test for. You're not supposed to do it unless you really need to. You go from 100% reverse to 100% ahead. It's a lot of stress on all the metal, and I got to be the one to do that. And just the entire submarine was shaking. It felt like we were in like a can of corn, just getting rattled. And yeah, it was incredible. They're incredible machines.
So what is the point of doing that full reverse to full throttle?
It's a test. We have to, every so often, we have to do testing on our equipment to make sure that it still can do what our mission might require. We had to do, you ever seen the movies where the submarine launches out of the water and Sean Connery's there? That we do that.
R.I.P.
Yeah, we do that. Did he die? Who? Sean Connery?
Did he die?
Yeah.
He did?
Like a few years ago.
Oh. No. Well, there you go. Sure, he's dead. So we do that where you launch out of the water. Do that to make sure we still can, basically. So I got to be, and that one, it's called a crashback, is what I did, and it's very rare, and it was a really, really, really fun thing to do.
Yeah, so Sean Connery died on Halloween of 2020.
Oh wow.
I suck.
What do we do?
Oh yeah, I guess whatever.
4 years ago, man.
Yeah, jeez.
That's crazy.
I don't know.
So I've got a couple more, but another big theme was talking about pressure. And do you feel it in your ears? And do you have to like go up in a sub like a diver does, or is everything like nice and pressurized, or how does that work?
Yeah, so it's all pressurized. I talked about swapping air earlier. We do have air tanks on board, and we make high pressure air. So over time, the volume of air in the submarine gets devoted to mechanical systems. So we have people air tanks, and then obviously the big tank, which is the entire submarine. As long as the big tank doesn't get punctured, you're pretty good. So every so often you go out and you swap out air. Oxygen content is incredibly low.
Tell me about that.
Oxygen content is incredibly low on submarines. Low teens percent. Most of the time, we have electrolytic oxygen generators, and they're like coming out with newer technologies all the time. Like LPEs, I think they're called. I don't know what it stands for. I can't remember, but we can make air, we can make hydrogen and oxygen. So those are usually running, but if those crap out, we have oxygen candles. But every now and then you just need to swap out air. We talked earlier about smells, and amine, that's what it is. There's a gas that's in the air. It's called amine. It's a byproduct of another chemical on board. And whenever you come home, everything you have smells like amine. Everything. You smell like amine.
No.
You don't realize it. You always know the smell when you go, like when you come home or when you go into work. Like if you're in port, like, oh wow, yeah, I smell. but like after a while, you go nose deaf to it.
What's it smell like?
I wish I could remember. It's not like overpoweringly bad, but it's like smell. It's like you just stood in an engine for 12 hours. Like imagine an engine that you just can walk into. Imagine you just stood in there. You know,
Like
all that mechanical stuff that's going on.
Yeah.
You know, kind of dust, farts. Just a nice little cocktail of smells and stuff gets all over you. So we swap that out. So we go up to the top, put the snorkel up, whoosh, brand new air, high oxygen content air. It always kind of sucked to get to do that when you were sleeping, because a lot of people would wake up because your body, like in your sleep, you just get a rush of oxygen. So you're just, whoa, we're swapping out air. Cool. So yeah, is that it?
Yeah.
Is that it? Okay. I couldn't remember if there was any.
I think we'll do 3 more questions.
Okay.
One is, which I think is a cool question, is about women and the subs and how men handled that. But there weren't any, right?
Well, I actually had the privilege to go out with some of the first, not like date or anything like that, but like go out underway with some of the first female officers in our Navy. Not the first, but some of the first that went through the nuclear power pipeline. All officers on board a submarine are nuclear trained. So they all go through the same nuclear pipeline I went through, just with more math, more rules, more things to learn, just whatever. There's officer stuff. While I'm learning how to be an electrician, while I'm learning how to, operate the electric plant, they're learning how to manage a reactor. They're learning how to, manage a team of technicians and watchstanders. So females came on board, and I got to go underway with some of them on other boats, not mine. When I first showed up, my boat went to a long repair period. So I went on what are called rides, went out with other submarines, just to get experience and get qualifications. So, it really didn't change anything. There's the dynamic, it is what it is. I did hear some stories.
How do you call it a boat?
It's just what it's called. It's a boat.
But it's
and I think it's like technically classified by like how many feet the vessel is. But I don't know what it is, but everyone just calls them boats. Submarine, U-boats, maybe like, I don't know. It's been a long time since I've had to worry about submarine history. I usually say, I qualify. I don't have to go ask something more.
That should stick with you.
Yeah. So, yeah. And then now they're doing them enlisted as well.
But it's relatively new, right?
Within like the last 10 years. Yeah, it really kind of took off. Subs. Yeah, women on subs. First it was officers. Now they're doing enlisted. I take it back. Not every officer is nuclear trained, but all the line, what are called line officers are. But there's challenges. That are not unique to submarines about having women and men working together. But yeah, I actually was friends with some of the women on submarines. They're probably better at their now. They certainly better job. Good Lord, better at their jobs than I was. They've been doing it for a long time now. So yeah, it's great. I'm really glad that we did it. It opened up a whole new recruiting pool. So I'm sure that helped with manning. Manning was always a problem. We never had enough people, or at least we never felt like we had enough people. So, bringing that in, like I said earlier, there were stories, there were relationships. It happens. I don't know how they handled that. That was after my time and not on my platform. Because my boat, when I went back, we did not get women on until long after I was gone. Because they have to do conversions for some of the boats, like different facilities, different organization. I don't know all the details about that. What else?
What is the coolest or creepiest thing you've seen?
Well, I know the theme here is sometimes to bring a little bit of creepiness into the podcast, but it's not spooky down there. The only spooky thing is how stupid people
the farts.
Yeah, and how annoying people can get, and how much you just want to just beat the shit out of some people sometimes. Oh, am I allowed to curse?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I curse all the time.
Okay.
Yeah, fuck that.
Yeah, so the only spooky thing is having to deal with some of the dipshits you had to deal with. But the coolest thing I ever got to see, it was like out of a movie, man. We were doing an inbound transit, so we were coming home, and for some reason, I can't remember why, and they didn't tell me. It didn't matter to me. For some reason, we came up during the night, and they put it out there like, hey, if anyone wants to come up into the sail and ride in the sail up here.
What's the sail?
The sail, on a submarine, how you see, like, have you ever seen a picture of everyone's seen a picture of a submarine? Hope so. Pretty common. Yeah. They have that big mast in the middle, so that it's a tube, and then they have the big mast. Yeah. That's the sail.
Okay.
And when we're on the surface, someone's in that sail piloting the submarine. So they're the ones, piloting the boat. And so they invited us up there, and I was able to take advantage of that. Brought a cigar up. It was my department head. So the engineering officer was the pilot at that time. So he and I got to share a cigar. Like when people tell you that the sky can like really light up, it's true. It's like out of the movies.
Yeah.
Like you see everything, and it's just beautiful. And then additionally, we had the bioluminescence. So you have sea creatures that give off a color at night. It's a chemical. It's a bioluminescence function. They're washing up along the boat, and so you're just seeing waves of turquoise green creatures just washing along this black water, black submarine. You feel like a ghost, except for like this one little light. Yeah, and so that was the most incredible thing I saw. That was really, really cool. Yeah.
And the last question is, do you miss it, and would you go back?
No, I don't miss it. Hell no. I miss the people. And pretty much everyone who's done this will tell you that they miss the people. The job, some people love the job, and I did enjoy it. There were some really cool parts of it. A vast majority of it was not a lot of sleep, a lot of stress, not being with your family, sacrifices after sacrifice after sacrifice for the mission, and it was a tough life. I make it sound like we're like some like cutout warriors. We're not. Most of us are probably like wusses, but it's a big sacrifice and it's a tough job. And I wanted to move elsewhere in my life. I met Ashley. I wanted to have a family, so it wasn't for me. It is for some people, and God bless those people. Oh my Lord. I knew that I didn't want to stay in anymore. It was pretty early on into my time. I was like, okay, I'm gonna do 10 years and I'm gonna get out. My chief, my new supervisor, my new boss came on board, and he, we're just like getting to know each other. And he was 36, I think, at the time. He's a great guy. Like truly, I still talk to him to this day. Big mentor of mine. But he's like, I was like, yeah, are you excited? Are you excited to retire? Because he only had a couple years left. He's like, yeah, I'm really excited to start my life. I was like, you're 36 with 2 kids in high school, and you don't think you've started your life? I was like, yeah, no, I'm done. I'm good. I'm gonna do my time. I'm gonna learn my lessons, and I'm done with that. I'm not gonna have that for myself. It's a sacrifice, and it wasn't for me, and it is for some people, and they're incredible people, and hope they stay safe.
How long were you in it for?
I was on the boat for about 4.5 years.
Okay.
So I did just under 10 years. The first couple of years was all training. The nuclear pipeline takes about 1.5 years to get through, give or take. You have a 6 month or 3 to 6 month A school where you learn to be an electrician, an electronics technician, a mechanic. You pass that, then you go to power school, and you learn about reactor physics. You learn about thermodynamics. You do some calculus. You do some algebra. You learn about some reactor systems. You pass all that. It's all on paper. It's all theoretical. You pass all that. Then you go to another 6-month school. It's called prototype, where you operate a live reactor. It's all under instruct. You have like a a C returnee is what they're called. So someone who has already been out to sea and has come back and is qualified, and so they're watching you, and they're asked. You have to go through a qualification program. So you have to go do basically interview questions, but like thousands of them on everything to do with the whole entire reactor plant. And then when you're done with that, congratulations, you're a nuke now. That's what we call ourselves, nukes. You're a nuke now. Go out to the fleet and do it again. And this time you also have to do maintenance. You also have to do cleaning. You have to do the rest of what being on board a submarine is.
Yeah, you're literally like an everyman.
Yeah. Everyone cleaned, everyone assisted. I did the electrical stuff. The cooks did the cook stuff. Some cooks were better than others. I had a standing rule that I was to be woken up for waffles and hamsters. We called them hamsters. It's like
you ate hamsters. You monster.
we call them hamsters. They're chicken cordon bleu.
Oh,
it's just like a fried block of meat and cheese. And it's terrible. It was awful, but it was delicious because it was like the best thing that you could possibly make underway was this hamster.
Oh yeah, how did you guys cook things?
The same way, the cooks, they had, they had a kitchen, a tiny little kitchen. It wasn't,
like a stove?
Yeah. They had a griddle. They had mixers. They had things to heat up soup in. They had, slicers. We would do what was called stores onboarding before we leave, which is bringing on all of our food. And, I did it one time. I just moved boxes of food onto the boat for like 11 hours.
Ooh.
Yeah, well, the cooks fucked up. God bless them. They are the backbone of the morale, because if there's not good food, no one's happy.
Yeah.
But they do kind of have a reputation of like not being the sharpest tools in the shed. And I'm sorry to any cooks that are out there. God bless you guys. Keep making good cookies. But I swear, I saw some of them do like just stuff that I just did not understand. Like they had like a deli slicer, and they submerged the entire thing, and it had a plug-in, and they submerged it, and then they came to me and they're like, "Why doesn't it work anymore?"
Oh my god!
Because you just dumped this electrical thing into a bucket of water. It's not going to work. You broke it.
Like it's good that you're still alive.
Yeah. That's what I said. The spooky thing is the people. Yeah. So everyone has their job. Everyone does good at it. If you're not good at it, you don't stay. You go somewhere else. And there's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, would I go back? Hell no. Absolutely not. Too long. I like my life now.
I like
that's
my life
so
too.
sweet.
All right.
Aw,
Thanks
yeah.
so much, babe. We appreciate you coming on.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thanks, Cody.
Yeah, if any of your viewers have any questions, feel free, and I'll be happy to answer whatever comes through. Communicate with you. Cool. All right. Thanks, Jessica.
Thanks.
Bye.
Nice to see you again. Bye.
Okay. All right.
Well, if you want more of us, you can find us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, and Patreon, where you can join us at the $3 level and get a monthly bonus episode, which we just recorded this month, and a sticker of our beautiful cartoon faces.
Yeah. And if you would like to rate and review us, you can do so on Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
thanks for tuning in. We hope you liked our special guest. If you want him back anytime, let me know. He's around all the time. So we look forward to bringing you 2 news stories next week.
Bye. Bye.